Good evening, everyone. There's you can see a show of hands of how many people know what grafting is.
I had to sign up for the graft when I was 18.
Different kind of graft. Anyway, I'm gonna demonstrate some grafting tonight. I'm also gonna try to talk as I do it, but I really want you guys to see what it actually is, and I'll explain it as I go. Grafting is when you take this is an avocado, and a citrus tree, and I took some branches from some trees down in Haiku. This is a Hawaiian orange, seedless, amazing orange, and this is a friend of mine's grandpa's avocado tree. He said it was really good. He wants me to graft it for him. So it's really important when you're grafting. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these and put them on. They're going to heal together, and it's going to grow this tree from this tree's roots. So it's important when you're collecting these pieces, which these pieces are called scion-wood, the pieces that you collect from the tree that you want to grow. So you want to collect these when the buds are just getting ready to flush out new growth. So they're all fat and swollen and ready to push out new growth. That's the time you want to pick your scion-wood. So it's nice to have this little pouch with all your tools and tape and all the stuff. So a lot of people use grafting knives. I use, this is a number 2 X-Acto handle, and I use replaceable shaver blades. Yeah, these are for shaving your face. You can get them at Long's, pretty cheap. Really sharp, and they work great. You never have to sharpen a knife. So this is what I use. This is my grafting knife. Now there's 3 basic grafts that I do. There's actually a lot of different kinds of grafts, but 3 main ones that I do. And the first one is what I call a side veneer graft. And so I will just demonstrate. Notice the way that I'm holding the piece of scion-wood. It's really important to be able to hold your piece of scion-wood really sturdy, and you want to pull your scion-wood into the blade, not like whittle, like that. You have more control and get a bit more precise cut. So I'm just cutting one flat surface along the edge and making it so that it comes to a sharp point. Yeah. So the next step for this particular graft is cut the top off of my tree. And I want to clean that cut up just a little bit with my nice sharp razor. And then I'm gonna put the blade in the top of the tree, in the side, right through the bark down to the wood, and then I'm gonna twist it so that the bark like flaps open. Okay? And then you take your scion-wood that's cut nicely, and you can slip it right in the bark. Like so. This graft works really good for grafting trees that are already established in the ground. You just want to change the variety. because usually you'll end up with, like I've grafted, 100-year-old mango trees with this kind of graft. So the other kinds of grafts, the actual diameter of the rootstock or the piece that you're grafting onto has to be approximately the same diameter as your signwood. So looking at this tree now, I'm going to do a wedge graft for you guys, and so I gotta get a piece that's same diameter. So the wedge graft kind of is self-explanatory. You cut, instead of cutting just one side, you cut both sides so that it's a wedge. And I make this look really easy. This is not easy. I've done thousands of grafts. It is a little hard when you have like 50 people watching, So here we go, it's just a wedge. Comes to a nice sharp point. And it's really important that your cut surfaces are flat. Like, so if I was gonna stick that down on the table, it would sit flat on the table. And it's important that there's not different angles and sort of warbles. So, better to start a little high because I can always cut it down lower. And I like to put my grafts right next to a leaf. I think that helps sometimes. It's not necessary, but every little bit counts. So the important, one of the most important things that you're looking for is to match up the cambium layer. And that's the layer between the bark and the wood. That's where the healing takes place. And if that's not lined up, it's not going to heal together, it's not going to grow. So that is a little too thin, so I'm going to cut it down a little lower where it's fatter.
So lined up in width with your wedge, is what you're saying?
The width of the signwood and the diameter of the rootstock can be different even if the cambium lines up.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes the bark is thicker on either the rootstock or the signwood, so it's not exactly the diameter of the outside. It's you really have to look where the cambium layer is
On both your
on both the signwood and the rootstock and make sure that they're lining up.
Right on.
More observing.
So once you get it, so it's lining up, put your blade right in the middle, or wherever it lines up, and it's really important to walk your knife down into the tree, especially with these razor sharp razors here. You can slip and split your tree really easily,
Or your finger.
or your finger.
Wow.
So now we'll do, the next graft I'll do is called a whip graft. And you cut the signwood the same as the side veneer. The only difference is that we'll cut the rootstock the same way. So I'll have the same cut, we'll line it up, and it'll grow. We'll have some more Hawaiian oranges.
So Jayanti, you never use like a rooting?
We're not making roots.
Oh,
You couldn't use an avocado tree for an orange?
No.
You work for Monsanto or something, man?
Secret agents.
So again, you need to like pay attention to the cambium layer. kind of squinting one eye and looking down in there, looking pretty good. The only trouble with this particular graft is that you can't let it sit on there without tying it up. So you want it to be really nice and tight. Almost tight enough that you could pick the tree up. You don't want any airspace in there. Also want to be careful as you're tying it up that you don't move it and shift it so that the cambium layer is not lined up anymore.
What's that ribbon or what is that?
It's just like a horticultural tie tape. You can buy it down probably or most of the nurseries. So I'm just going to tie these other ones up real quick and I'll show you the last couple steps.
How do you know which one to use for which plant?
How do you know which graft
How
to
do
use?
you know which graft to use?
Which graft to use?
Repeat the question, Jayanti.
How do I know when to use which graft? Sometimes it's just depends on how I'm feeling. You know, you do so many wedge grafts, you're like, I want to do a whip graft. And sometimes it's like you see how on this tree there's no leaves, it's all just straight and clean, and also on the signwood. Sometimes you get trees look more like the citrus where there's more more leaves, and every time you have a leaf, it sort of does, the cambium layer does this little warble in there if you cut a cross section of it. So sometimes it's hard to get a wedge graft if you have those warbles, and so the whip graft is sometimes better in that case. It's a lot of it really is just super easy to do. It just takes practice. It's like riding a bike.
If you have a rootstock or a tree that, say, a nice citrus tree already, but you want to graft another kind of citrus onto it, would you use that side slip one?
So the question is, if you already have an existing citrus tree and you want to put another variety onto it, would I use the side slip one? And generally I would say yes, but it's really depends on your particular tree. Because this only works when the bark, you have slippery bark. Okay? So like with citrus, you get to a certain diameter and the bark doesn't slip. You can't put the knife in and open the bark up, it doesn't work. So what you got to do is you got to cut your tree back, wait for it to sprout, and then graft onto the fresh new sprout, in which case you can decide whether you want to do a wedge or when you want to do it, because it'll be small. So this next step is really important. This is stuff called parafilm. It's a laboratory film used for sealing petri dishes and whatnot. And in the old days, guys used to have like a little thing of heated up wax, and they would paint it on to seal the signwood so they don't dry out. Parafilm seals it. You don't have to heat it up. It's just super stretchy, and you just wrap it up. Seals in all the moisture right up over the top. The buds, when they start growing, will push right through it, no problem. So it's really the perfect thing for sealing up the grafts.
So that covers both halves?
I overlap. The green tape also seals it, so I just want to make sure I overlap and you get full seal all the way. I'm doing a grafting workshop August 25th, anybody's interested in signing up for that, and give me your name and email and some money.
Where's it gonna be?
It's gonna be on Omopio, the greenhouses, where the school garden stuff is.
So how long till these, then you know, these are, what are some of the signs you're gonna see?
In about 2 weeks, if the graft's gonna go, you'll start seeing the buds push through the parafilm. Sometimes I've had grafts sit there for like a month and a half and then start growing, and sometimes they don't grow. So another important step is labeling.
Yes.
So labels, and then one last thing. I make these little paper hats because I'm not always grafting in a greenhouse where it's protected. So that keeps the rain off. It also keeps the intense sun off of the grafts. And I usually leave those on for like a week or so while they're healing up. And that's grafting.
So if you have a tree with multiple branches, you can just graft one branch, that would work?
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah, sorry.
If you have a tree with more branches, you can just graft
Yes,
one branch.
you can graft multiple branches on one tree, multiple varieties onto one tree.
So for citrus, then you could be doing different citrus on a particular.
Sure. You can do lemon, lime, orange, all in one tree. Even more. You can have an avocado tree that bears fruit all year round. There's a lot of cool things you can do with grafting. It's amazing. Any other questions?
Are you sterilizing your blade?
No.
You're not worried about that?
Ask
No.
you sterilizing the blade. No need.
No sterilization. Some people would recommend that. But I figured when I cut into the signwood, that's cleaning the blade, and the first cut usually isn't the final cut. So, and anything on the outside of the wood, is gonna it's just, and my success rate is usually around 90%. So I got a little bit more to figure out, but it's not bad. Yeah, and this is what I do, what I just showed you.
So these particular starts that you have in here, you started them from seed?
Yeah, Ryan from Mana Foods was nice enough to save seeds for me. So, and then the citrus though is a specific rootstock that there's an experiment station on Oahu, the Pomoha Experiment Station, and a good friend Stephen Reeves from People Hulu turned me on to this rootstock because the experiment station did a 30-year rootstock trial with citrus, and from that trial worked out that this rootstock was the best one for Hawaii. That was the information that I got. So seems like this is the only one that we should be using, and so that's what I'm doing. This is called Heen Naran. It's an Indian tangerine. Yeah.
How long was your harvest sign? How was it?
Yesterday.
And then do you seal it with anything? What do you keep
I just keep it in a Ziploc bag. I usually,
Signwood was harvested yesterday was the question. When
yeah, the signwood, I put it in a plastic bag with a wet paper towel is actually nice, but even if you just add a little bit of water and then kind of dump it out so it's moist, and then seal it up, and then if I'm gonna go like a day or two, I'll usually stick it in the fridge. Just keep it cool and fresh.